Nicholas, thank you so much for sitting with me today.
Sure.
The Circle of Poets website, and blatant plug here, circleofpoets.tt.org, says the Circle of Poets of Trinidad and Tobago is a non-profit organization promoting awareness and appreciation of poetry in Trinidad and Tobago by encouraging poets to develop their writing.
That's correct.
And today we have the honor of speaking with the Circle of Poets chairman of the board.
He here? Okay, go ahead.
For our audience who hasn't heard of the Circle of Poets, can you tell them about the group?
Sure. We're a dedicated poetry group. We're just about, I would say roughly about 20 years old. It started out as a few friends meeting, and they added friends, and one of those persons, his name is Jude Patrong. He was interested in translating his book in Spanish, and he went to the Venezuelan embassy. They connected him with some Venezuelan poets from the Andean Circle of Poets, and they were able to tour South America in the Encounter, which is a festival that they have there, where the poets move between districts and go around doing their poetry. And eventually they suggested that we do a Circle of Poets of Trinidad and Tobago, and that's how the circle came about. And we meet traditionally at City Hall in Port of Spain twice a month, and we've just extended it to Arima and the Shogunas within the last year.
And what makes the circle different from other literary groups?
Easy. We're a family. We're all a bit quirky and we love it. And we're one of the few groups that actually meet, sit down, and that is the purpose, you know, like a major part of it. We meet with visitors, we meet with each other, and we read poetry, we write poetry, we explore poetry, we workshop, and everybody has something different. Everybody's at different levels of writing, and everybody has a different style of writing. So even when you look at somebody and say, I'll never be as good as you, or a writer like you, the answer is, I am me, and you are you, and we write differently. You shouldn't aspire to be me, you should aspire to be a better writer as you are, and your voice.
Will the circle help a writer get published?
We help writers write, and we don't have that facility of getting published yet, but we do have friends that have publishing companies and that we link with. So one is the person, the company that did our book, 360 Degrees. We have two former members of the circle, and when I say former members, they're not active with the circle right now, but they have their own imprint, and we are making some other arrangements with some other local publishers so that we can help the writer move from writing to writing the way that they want to write better, into editing, because we believe that editing is very important as part of the process, into publishing, and that will of course encapsulate everything that they've done before leading up to this point.
And over your years of being with the circle, how many unpublished writers have become published since becoming a member?
Because publishing is something that each person decides on their own, most of our members have published with the circle in our anthology, but few have gone on to do it themselves. So we do have a few persons that are members of the circle that have published with the circle, that have published while they've been active with the circle as well, and not just poetry, but even other types of publications.
And you've mentioned the books that you published.
Well, we have three entirely. There's Circle of Thoughts, which happened in 1997, I believe it was. That's the first publication, the first anthology of the Circle of Poets, before my time. There's 360 Degrees, which is another anthology that was done in 2013. And we also have a chapbook which was published last year in e-format, and it's called Rainfest, and the entire thing is themed on rain, which we had a lot of last year, July.
And we're having a lot of this year as
Yes.
well. What's your experience with the publishing process locally?
Oh, it's long. It's long, and we don't always get the best value for our writers here, because oftentimes we hear many stories of persons who paid to have their works published, and the end result is not good. We know that a lot of people now go to print on demand and e-formats, and because they do this, they try to minimize the cost as much as possible. They leave out the editing aspect, and poetry is not something that everybody can edit, and it's not something that everybody can write well. So it leads back to what the circle does. We try to help people write better, to the point that they are satisfied with their writing, that they want to publish, and we encourage our members to publish as well.
What advice would you give a writer about the publishing process? So there are many writers out there, sometimes I hear really horror stories about what they've gone through getting published, and then they're still not satisfied. If you can give a person, before they enter that world, any advice, what would it be?
Don't expect miracles. Really and truly, we make our best attempts, and it's great that we make these attempts because they're part of the learning process. So if it is that you want to go ahead and publish, make sure what you're giving out there is the best version of yourself, because it's going to reflect on future endeavors. Make sure and edit. I cannot stress edit. Get your work edited by somebody else who is proficient enough to edit poetry. They understand poetry, they read poetry. I have too many instances where I'm meeting people who publish, who perform, and they don't read poetry, like at all. And it's a discredit to them, and it shows a lack of respect for the craft.
Why would someone join the Circle of Poets?
Because we help people. You know, we help as friends. We try to give the best of ourselves to that person, because we've all been in the same spot. Some of us are still, you know, moving through those hurdles of finding our writing voice. As a friend of mine told me, our thumbprint, that thing that makes us individually unique, set apart from someone else. And people may believe that we're trying to change. When you encourage persons to edit their work, when you encourage persons to read their work and receive constructive criticism, people believe that you're trying to change what you're trying to say, and no, it's not that. But as another poet once said, poetry allows us to tell our story in the best version, right? The best possible words, the best possible way. And that's all we want.
Can you name one thing, in closing, that you would change about the circle?
Something that I would change about this circle. I would make this circle rich, honestly. Make this circle rich so that we have more time for everybody, and we can dedicate persons to doing this full time, all the time, every time, and help anybody that comes along. Not that we don't, but we're a little constrained, you know. Things take time and money, and when we have to work and when we have our families and stuff to take care of, we have to also consider those other aspects of our lives and not just the poetry.
And if anyone watching would want to contribute to the circle or give a large or small donation in an effort to help local Trinidadian poets, how would they go about doing that?
They can actually come into our meetings. They can make contact with us, go to our website, indicate that they're willing to do such, and we would make arrangements to do that. You know, on our Circle of Poets website, you could go on Google, you can Google us, but simply it's circleofpoetstt.org.
Well, thank you, Nicholas. It's been a very informative discussion with you, and I hope to see your work in print soon.
Well, thanks for having me, Gersha.